There's nothing wrong with your
podcast app.
Do not attempt to adjust your
audio.
We are controlling the transmission.
What's that, boy? We're in control? Hey, look! I can see my voice! Blub, 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 blub. This is my voice on podcast.
Dad, you're ruining the mood.
Sorry.
For the next half hour, we will control what you see and hear. You are about to experience the terror and foul horror of the
Soul of Detroit
Halloween Special.
Interrogative question out of my face. It's gone.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Come on.
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Albert?
Hey, kids, trick or treat on this special Halloween edition of ML's Soul of Detroit. Mark knew I was going to say that because he stole the sign. I guess there's a lot of that going on these days.
Yeah, not illegal.
Not illegal. So that contract extension was just not withheld because it's legal.
No, it's currently being worked on right now.
It's being worked on.
That's the breaking news right now. They're not going to have him sign a contract when all this crap's going on.
Oh,
it wasn't rescinded.
Of course not. So let me just recap for you folks.
You're the worst. Really? We have to do this, Sean?
I think we're going to do this later.
Basket.
He's changing the what do you call it?
Because he can't
schedule.
He's got an inferiority complex. He can't handle it.
Okay.
Basketball program covers up a player's car crash. Hockey coach fired for lying. Football coach suspended for lying. Other football coach investigated. And the sign stealing. The best you can say is it's legal. I think the best you can say
I was referring to the sign stealing.
Is we're 8-0. I think that's the best you can say by any means necessary. That's okay. That's fine. We understand. We remember the Dave Brandon era. It's time to turn the page. We wish we could turn the page in East Lansing. It seems to be stuck.
Yeah,
just like
Glass House is my man.
Just like magazines on Mel Tucker's desk, they're all stuck.
Oh,
it's unfortunate.
Come on.
He doesn't use magazines. It's all digital.
Come on.
And
that's
now,
what she said.
And now he's not just been found guilty of being inappropriate, or he's been found responsible for inappropriate conduct.
There's bigger news out there. The bigger news is is that Mike's mama makes a mean peanut butter
Those
cookie.
were delicious. Yeah,
thank you, Mike.
Don't talk about my mama.
I mean, I don't know if you did anything to them, but they were delicious.
My
see
mom
if we make it through
said
the show.
She sent me a note. She said these are to sweeten up Sean's foul mouth, and I think that they have.
That's right.
But if you like really good eats, you could go to my mom's house. But I have trouble getting a free meal there every once in a while. You should probably go to the Caju Cafe. That's having a huge Halloween party tonight. You can get the details at cajucafe.com, and we'll tell you what's going on the rest of the week there. But if you're listening on Tuesday, go participate in the big party. Costume party. There's going to be live music, all that good stuff. And we're also brought to you by Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth Strategies. If you thought you had $95 million to live on for the rest of your life and all of a sudden you find out that, oh, maybe I have substantially less in future earnings, you're probably really nervous. But if you'd invested that money by following Luke's advice in the first place, you'd probably feel a little more comfortable about your future. And we're going to tell you how you can get together with Luke to plan for a more secure tomorrow in just a little while. But first, we have a few program notes we have to tell you. This show should be substantially shorter than many of our previous shows because we don't have Joe Zuver here gumming up the works with all his unsolicited comments and butting in and all his rejoinders.
Blame
and
the guy that's
comebacks.
not here. Yeah.
So that's going to save us significant time. If you're used to watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, our videos are on hold for now. Joe was our video producer, did a lot of great things for the show. He is pursuing more lucrative opportunities, which is pretty much everything when you look at the economics of this show. And so we've had to cut back a little bit. We are hoping to bring that back before the end of the year or earlier next year when we introduce a Patreon model where we may ask you for a few bucks, and in return for a few bucks support, we're going to provide you some extra features, access to video, perhaps some special episodes, an annual event, and some swag. We're still working on the details of that, but if you're used to watching us and you're listening to us instead, welcome. Please share this link with your friends so they can listen too, and you're going to hear the whole show because typically with the video we cut off a little early because we want to save something special just for those of you who listen to us at your convenience. So if you're a longtime listener, thanks. If you're a viewer, who's now a listener, welcome, and we appreciate all your feedback. And today we have a very special show. In addition to Mark Fellhauer, the hardest working man in podcasting, and Shawn Windsor, who spends time in basements even when he's not podcasting. That's
really.
Yeah. Don't you have an office down there?
I might. By the way, can the show give a belated happy birthday to Jamie Gertz, who turned 58 earlier this week?
What?
No, we can't spare a square.
What?
We cannot spare a square. Not even a pie.
I was just Mark and I were talking earlier about shows, and we normally do, and I was just thinking about the movie Lost Boys, and I can't believe
What?
I hadn't thought about that in a while.
It's Halloween. That's kind of
it popped up all over the timeline this week, and she turned 58. And when did we all get so old? And how is Lost Boys almost 40 years old?
She was also in Less Than Zero, which we discussed last week.
She was.
And I need to make a correction, by the way. Drew Wave pointed out that with everything going on yesterday, Charlie LaDuff was in. Great episode if you missed it. Terrific interview.
Where
Charlie
was Mark, by the way?
Always interesting.
I know. The 2 times Charlie's been on this show, I was out for dealing with personal things. I think I was sick. And then
did you listen?
Going on? Yeah. Well, yeah. I listened to the Charlie part.
Well, we can't rule out that Mark and Charlie are the same person.
And how did he do?
I thought it was great. I actually thought all 3 of you did great. I don't want to be so meta that we're reviewing the show on the next show, but yeah, he was Charlie. I thought he did really well.
I think that was a Charlie most people haven't seen.
He was contemplative a little bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, look, I know the guy. I work with him. I'm not terribly surprised by that. You know what I mean? But it wasn't contentious, which I maybe expected a little of that because the last time.
No, we took a little flack maybe for not being contentious enough. Or Mike,
did we? Oh.
Really?
Mike was worried about that anyway.
Oh no, I don't think he should have been. I mean, you asked questions, he answered them.
No, I wasn't worried about being criticized. I was worried that Charlie was going to try and tell us that he was anything but too clever by half, which was the first thing he said, which is a really disarming thing when someone you're expecting to say, well, let me explain to you what seems pretty plain wasn't so plain. Basically, when we expected a reporter to act like a politician, and Charlie did what he did. He came on, and he was a reporter.
He's his own man. Mm-hmm.
I think so see you next Tuesday, not something you should ever do. So I don't want to say he provided an example for future conduct there, and reserving the right to use the C word. I think maybe you just that's a right that you don't want to exercise. I don't think that was something that you can necessarily learn from other than to say, I'm going to do the opposite. But what he did was he said, listen, it's pretty obvious what happened here. Got a little bit over my skis. It was a problem. Acknowledged it. I'm sorry for the people who were affected by it, the people who stood by me. And the story's still good, and I'm going to keep pursuing the story, and I'm sorry this got in the way of the story, but the story is something that people still need to pay attention to. He basically owned it. And how often do we see people who get in trouble come out, and then they start to say something, and then they but. Yeah. It's like, I take full responsibility, and then the next hour they basically show that they take almost no responsibility.
How many breaths did that take?
Well, I was going to tell people that I was wrong about Jane Wiedlin being in the Bangles when really she was in the Go-Go's. And that was pointed out to me after the show by Drew Wave. I was making that program note, that correction when you took us down a side rail, but that happens.
In any case, yeah.
Joe was here.
Happy belated birthday to Jamie Gertz, and happy birthday to Drew.
That's right. It's his big birthday.
What's his sign? Do we know his sign?
He's a Scorpio.
Trump would probably say, these things aren't known. There's no way to know these things. But he's a Scorpio? Somebody said that?
Yes.
Mel knew it.
What does that mean?
Nothing, because it's not real.
It means that he's a somewhat edgy, acerbic, smart, fiercely loyal, but also someone not to be trifled with.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. You said nothing, Mark? You don't believe in astrology?
No. Not one.
You weren't a fan of Nancy Reagan?
Well, not astrology.
Okay.
It's a scam. Anyway.
Yeah, well, speaking of first ladies, my wife Tresa Baldas is on the line, joining us to talk about this week's installment in the Soul of Detroit Book Club, the Matthew Perry memoir, which I think was doing pretty well in sales, and I'm sure has had a spike in sales in the way that authors don't want to generate new sales, which is by dying. If you have not been listening to the Drew and Mike show or any other media over the last 48 hours, 72 hours now. I think I found out during Michigan State's drowning in a pool of its own incompetence.
It was after that. It was around 8 o'clock on Saturday when it broke. Yeah.
Yeah.
During Ohio State.
Look
Wisconsin.
at you knowing the time.
As I've said before, it was I was putting the kids to bed and following Ohio State, Wisconsin on Twitter because that game was going on.
You're a big Buckeye fan.
And Wisconsin plus 14.5. So
Damn.
what?
So,
Who?
Did you make any money?
14.5. They won.
What does
by
that
14.
mean? But I don't know how much you bet. What'd you make?
Don't worry about it. I broke even.
You did not.
I remember when I was a kid, my dad would always just say broke even. I'm like, yeah, I'll just go with that.
By the way, are you
always break even?
Are you growing? Because you just lowered your chair. Are you actually getting taller in your 40s?
I was looking at myself in the monitor, and I didn't like how it
So just to recap, Shawn wants to get out of here quickly, even though there's absolutely no evidence to support that. And here's some news that we're breaking here. This is the longest my wife has been on a phone without saying something, so we can't really
be nice.
We can't really let that record go any longer.
Lovely Tresa.
Tresa Baldas of the Detroit Free Press, Michigan Journalist of the Year, some time ago, actually quite a while ago. Some people have forgotten about that, but it happened. It really happened. You still there, Tresa?
Can we? I am right here.
Okay, so give us your quick take, your Reader's Digest version on the Matthew Perry memoir, The Tell All.
You know, it's. I warned Mike that I would probably get emotional during this interview because while reading that book, and after reading that book, I mean, this wasn't a book about Chandler Bing and friends. It was a raw, honest look at these dark demons that Matthew Perry was battling. We heard about it in the media. We saw, over the years how he'd get thin, how he'd get fat, how he was doing drugs and addicted to drugs and drinking. But honestly, his book just really opened himself up to, probably more scrutiny, criticism. People can say whatever they want, but I was so touched by it. And it hit me personally for a number of reasons. I know people who personally who battle such problems, who battle depression. And his book to me was almost a life lesson, sort of a warning of what not to put your hopes in, what not to look forward to. So anyway, guys, you're probably all cringing over there, but honestly, I was devastated when I got the news. I was in Chicago eating dinner with my sister at a restaurant, and a friend of mine from Pittsburgh texted, Matthew Perry died, and my heart sank. I honestly, I just wanted to cry because I prayed for the guy. I read that he didn't want, when he died, he said he didn't want to be remembered for friends. He wanted to be remembered for someone who was trying to help addicts. And I can honestly say that when I got that text message, I didn't think of Chandler Bing. I thought of a guy who was lonely, who was scared, who was hurting and trying to help others and just couldn't, we don't know the exact cause of his death, but my heart just sank. I thought, oh my God, you tried so hard. And people were, cheering him on, and, he didn't make it. And we don't know exactly why. I mean, I suspect, I don't think you just drown in a jacuzzi by just sitting there. I imagine, we're going to find out something.
He had,
has that come out yet?
Well, he had COPD, breathing issues. He had played pickleball before. He was on a bunch of meds, and he's had heart problems, and his colon exploded, and all those things. And
right.
I mean, his heart probably just stopped, and.
If he had a heart attack like that, I mean, that's sad too. I mean, clearly it's, did he take drugs one last time? If he didn't, I'm so sorry.
It really,
yeah.
It really doesn't sound like it.
Okay. Did you see his last Instagram post on Friday?
Yeah, his madman.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said, "Is this supposed to kill the pain or whatever?" He was sitting in the hot tub, and you wonder how. I hope he just slipped away peacefully. Just maybe in the end, his whole, his addiction and his bad health caught up to him.
Sure. Teresa, you were a big fan of the show, Friends?
Huge. it got me through. When it first came out, I remember we lived in New Hampshire. I mean, Mike and I, we were in our early 20s, and we'd catch it. I wasn't a Rabbit fan initially, but I do remember that it got me through COVID.
It got you through Mike.
It it got me through. And and it's so hard because so much. Yes, Chandler Bing always reminded me of Mike. I'm like, that is my husband, Mr.
Really?
Sarcasm.
That's really funny
Mr.
because I've never liked Friends. I've never gotten it. I'll just admit it's just over my head or something. And I think Chandler Bing.
No, that's all right.
I think Chandler Bing is like the worst character. Like I would never want to hang out with someone like that.
Oh my God, Mark! How can you say that?
But that being said,
right.
Reading the book,
it's not bad, Mike.
Reading the book, though, and I want to know if you felt this way, Teresa. Did you? Because I ended up liking him more because he seemed real. He didn't seem like Chandler Bing. He seemed like a real guy with an addiction, which we all know somebody that has an addiction. Some of his jokes were a little, I don't know, some of his stories were a little too much for me, but the addiction stuff and his battles, I like him a lot more than anybody else that was on that show now because he seemed real.
Right. I know we like flawed people better, don't we?
Oh,
like, 'cause we can relate to them.
Because we're all flawed. Yeah, no.
We are. I'll tell you the parts that, and I mean, some of his, some of the stuff in the book about like my dad is the most beautiful man ever. I mean, he would be a little extra and over the top, and some of that, I didn't love all of it, but I loved probably 90% of it. The bit about him seeing God in his kitchen, I'm a person of faith. I totally believe that happened, and I was so happy for him. And the part that struck me the most was the one anecdote from that book that stood out, that one that I just mentioned where he saw God when he was at his weakest moment. And before he got friends, he was so obsessed with becoming famous that he dropped to his knees one night and said, "Dear God, please make me famous. Whatever you do with me, make me famous and anything else." And then he later talks about, he made good on that and the rest as well.
Well, he was a Nepo baby.
He had a leg up.
I prayed to God to be an actor and it didn't work.
Did you want to be an actor or did you want to be famous?
Neither.
I'm sure somebody else did. Here's the thing. He was so obsessed with fame, and I guess maybe that just touched me more because, I can relate to that.
But isn't the irony?
Honestly, no, the irony is myself. I mean, I admit, I have an ego. I want to be loved and praised and to be appreciated. And I think often we all look for affirmation from the outside world. I'm guilty of it big time. And I think he was too. And, he's a lesson to us all that, that's not where you're going to get it from. All the money, all the fame, all the women, all the booze. In the end, he died alone in a pool, and
in a way, though, it's almost like his fame is what led him down the path of his addictions. Now, that's not to say he couldn't have been addicted, I don't know, being a postal carrier
or a podcaster.
Right.
But it's a lot easier when you're famous with a lot of time and a lot of money.
But Teresa, didn't he? I read a story recently. Unfortunately, like Mark, maybe. I did not watch the show, was not necessarily a fan of the show, but I did read a story the other day that credited him with bringing in a new comedic cadence. And the way he delivered his lines on the show spurred a lot of imitators. And that even just people in the general populace delivering the language to their buddies, their pals, and their friends in the way he spoke. I thought that was interesting, that he was that influential.
He talked about that in the book, and I'm like, did we really pick that up that much? Could you be any more Chandler? I mean, did we really talk like that? I don't remember it, but I mean, I keep reading these articles as well that he sort of set off this whole cultural phenomenon where people talked like him, where the Chandler Bingisms became part of pop culture's language and way of talking, and apparently it did. I mean,
but that happens all the time.
In my group of friends.
When Fonzie was big, everybody's like, "Hey, sit on it," and all that other stuff. And then Michael Scott from The Office, so I was like, "That's what she said." I mean, there are people who, they kind of
talking about Willis
take over. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I didn't. But Teresa, I didn't think it was necessarily catch lines with him as much as the tone and the rhythm, the cadence. of his delivery and how, and that you could apply that to lots of other things. It wasn't just a hey or whatever, or up your nose with a rubber hose. that it was actually cadence.
Well, he was always astonished, right? Like, could you be any more obvious? I mean, he was overly dramatic. And I'll tell you what, he made every squirty little smart-ass punk feel like, hey, wait a minute, I can get the babes, because he's living with Joey Tribbiani, and he's the one who hooked up with Batman's ex-girlfriend. That's pretty good.
Wait, which Batman?
Some of
Which
the things
Batman?
Michael Keaton.
Oh no, you guys are getting off topic. Let's
Courtney
talk
Cox
about Matthew.
dated
guys.
Michael Keaton before.
No, Teresa, the line I remember the most was actually fairly recently. It was 6-7 years ago. He was on the Graham Norton
Are
show.
you going to finish that meth?
Do you guys ever watch the Graham Norton show?
We see clips every once in a while.
See a clip, or see a clip. Anyway, he's sitting next to an English actress.
on Ann Arbor
her
Public
name
Television.
is Teresa. Her name is Miriam Margolyes, and she's was in Harry Potter and Age of Innocence and some other things. She's talking about the first time she met Laurence Olivier, and she said, I remember it distinctly because I creamed my knickers. And Matthew Perry was sitting right next to her on the Graham Norton show on the couch and said, I've never been more uncomfortable in my life. But it was his delivery, it was the way he said it that just killed the audience. Yeah. You're not a fan.
I don't know. I don't think it was that unique.
Well, I have to ask something about the book, because the other
I'm a bad person, I guess. I don't know.
The other person recently who said that I reminded them of Matthew Perry was my dentist after I went in for an emergency appointment.
Is it the mousse in the hair?
And he booked
teeth?
Dentist, not my style consultant, dentist, who booked me for an emergency root canal. And I was thinking, do I remind you of Chandler Bing because I'm going to lose all of my teeth? What were the story with Matthew Perry's teeth?
I don't remember reading about his teeth in the book.
I don't think it was in
remember
the
a lot
book,
of other things.
But so when they had the big Friends reunion, he sounded terrible. I mean, you could barely understand. It was like a lot of so people thought, oh boy, he's back on the stuff. But he had said that he just had emergency oral surgery.
Oh shit!
And that's why he sounded that way. I don't know if that's been proven either way, but at this point, who cares? But yeah, no, he definitely had some issues speaking and with his teeth, and that's where I give him credit, because he's trying to get this message out there. He seems very genuine about rehab and helping people and getting over the stigma and that this is a disease, and he had no shame in doing interviews about it when he looked terrible and sounded terrible. So you got to give the guy credit for that.
I'm going to stay out of hot tubs just to be safe.
Who did you meet first, Teresa? Matthew Perry or Mike?
Mike.
Okay, I was trying to think of the time.
I met Mike when I was 20.
Hey, it's a family show.
So I'm just reading that Matthew Perry revealed he lost all his top teeth in addiction.
Yeah.
Okay. Although that's in the Sun, so I don't know if in the
maybe
UK.
going
so
one at a time. Damn it. But I'm not addicted. I'm addicted to the love of a good woman.
So you've heard
Don't tell
Teresa,
because she's on the show.
You've heard him get your hubby get compared to Matthew Perry over the years?
Say that again. I couldn't hear what you said.
You've heard your hubby get compared to Matthew Perry over the years?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, whenever you watch a show, a group of friends, people talk, who am I on the show? I mean, there was no dispute among any friends that Elric was Chandler Bing.
I like that you call him Elric.
That's good for a while because people thought I was Phoebe's porn star sister. That caused some confusion.
And it's I have a daughter who is wants to be a comedian, and I see a lot of her personality traits and yearning for recognition and fame, and some and he's funny. He's tragically funny. His comedic genius. It just reminds me a lot of her. And what's that?
We're still talking about Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry.
Okay.
Yes. So, I mean, he reminds me of my husband. He reminds me of my daughter. He reminds me of myself. No, I'm not obsessed with Matthew Perry, but after reading his book, I saw so much, and I just feel I learned so much. And I hope, if his dying wish is that he left an impact on people and helped people, well, I'll tell you what, he has helped me. I can honestly say that I'm just I'm so mad. I'm so sad. I in my head, I'm like, I was out for a walk in Chicago. I'm like, I just want to rewind the day and have him wake up, It's honestly, it's so upsetting.
Damn.
It's,
Dude was just on a TV show.
Yeah,
it's not the TV show. It's after reading his book, I felt I knew a person who was really struggling and really wanted to make it. I remember, and I read the book. My nephew bought it for me for Christmas after we watched him on Bill Maher's show. And he got on there, and Bill Maher said, "Hey, buddy, I'm glad you're here. A lot of you had you marked for gone." And he said, "Yeah, I know. I'm glad to be here, too." And then I listened to him, and the interview really just got me. I really felt for him. I'm like, God, I want to read his book. And so I got it for Christmas and fell in love with it.
I mean, I fully understand, you see people in popular culture, particularly music, I would think, and when they die, that's a profound effect. That's never happened to you, ML, where you've had someone pass too soon and it kind of bums you out or upsets you or makes you sad?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it does all the time, but I mean, this is, I'm about to lose a tooth and Tree's not shedding a tear, but some guy she never met dies in a hot tub and she's inconsolable.
He means more to her than you.
It's
also just a tooth and not a death. But.
When I bring that tooth home, we'll see. There better be at least a little sobbing.
With all the celebrity deaths that have happened over the year, I say, I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. That's sad. That's sad. This is the only one that affected me personally. The only one.
See, I was upset when Norm Macdonald passed. Like that one really bothered me because it's like, oh, great, no more Norm. Period. Never again.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I get it.
Right.
But that was special to me.
I wasn't sad for me at all. That I was sad for him because I knew how hard he was fighting to live. And that's who I was sad for. So, he's free now. He's at peace, and I hope the white light he saw in his kitchen is with him now. I tend to think it is.
When somebody like Matthew Perry dies, one of the things that I'm always struck by is a lot of people would change places with him in a minute. A lot of people want that fame, they want that wealth, they want those connections, they want that privilege. And when you see somebody who has it all and you read about how miserable they are and how it didn't make them feel any better. I mean, I'm sure they felt great many times, but in the end, it didn't bring them happiness. To me, that's the lesson that I take of something like this. If you're sitting here and your life's pretty good and you're thinking, boy, I'd like to be a big deal, this, in a way, is almost reassuring that that maybe the life you're living is a pretty good life. Maybe it's a better life than someone who, like Matthew Perry, had all kinds of connections growing up. His parents were musicians and had a toehold in Hollywood. He knew Justin Trudeau, which means he had some political connections. He hooked up with some of the best looking and most popular and elusive leading ladies of his time. I mean, then he had the money, then he had the fame, then he had everything, and then it didn't make him happy. He was chasing something else. When a light like that gets extinguished, I kind of feel like my little flicker feels a little more satisfying than it might have been. Not because he's dead, but just to say, I don't have much of what this guy has on a grand scale, but I'm still going, and life's pretty good, and I haven't been tempted by any of those things that tortured him. But Tresa, when you read this, doesn't the book kind of transition from I was this hot shot who was in charge and running the show at home and banging everything I could and hotshot athlete, and then I became a big star, to, oh crap, my life sucks? I mean, does the book have sort of a tone change in the middle or a key change?
No, actually, the tone throughout the whole thing is that my life has always sucked and that I hit it. That's what I took from it. I mean, I thought he misnamed the book. I think the title of his book should have been Unattended Minor. The common theme through this whole book is that
a West Virginia story.
He keeps using the term. He keeps referring to the term unattended minor, and that's because his mom, when he was a little kid, put him on a plane to go visit his dad when he was like 5 years old, and he was wearing a tag that said unattended minor, and they had to keep an eye on him. Well, he uses that phrase over and over and over again and talks about not feeling enough, not feeling loved, not having someone care about him enough.
He was an
and then-
oddly lonely guy.
Yes. And I'll tell you what, I was surprised too. You hear about all these, Hollywood celebrities, how they party, they do this, and they're always with like big groups. A lot of the time when he was, he just go home alone. He partied by himself. He was hiding his addictions. And if he had a party at his house, I mean, it might be him and like a very, very small handful of people. He was always by himself. But going back to this thing where he said, about fame, and he said, I yearned for it more than any person on the face of the planet. I needed it. It was the only thing that would fix me. I was certain of it. And then he talks about afterward, having had it, it doesn't work. And he said, and nobody who doesn't have it will believe me. This reminds me of Mike, who has won the Pulitzer, and I always admire it. And I'm like, God, and he's like, it's really not all that it's cracked up to be.
It came with a pay cut.
That's because you. I'm like, I know, you guys, we know.
They wanted 13.
But if I'm like, that's easy for you to say. You
Congratulations,
got it,
by the way. I didn't know you won a Pulitzer. That's awesome.
You probably haven't heard me mention it.
But
That's fantastic
it really is
news.
for those of us that yearn for something, that want something. I mean, Matthew Perry's right. I mean, you until you have it and have experienced, you just don't know. And the person who has it can tell you till they're blue in the face, listen, this isn't what you want. Trust me. And then the other person's out there, you know what? Give me a shot at it. Give me a taste of it, and then I'll tell you what I think. But, it's, no, I think I got his message loud and clear.
So why does he name drop all these people? Isn't there some braggadocio in this book? I mean, isn't there some of his
famous,
some of his vanity and insecurity coming through by trying to
Why are you
show
trying
everybody?
to rip him down?
I'm just curious because I haven't read the book. I'm not going to read the book. The other book Teresa's reading, I'm not going to read. Spare about Prince. Spare me. I don't want anybody to pay attention to me. Here's my book, Harry. But I mean, what I've heard about the book, some of which was from Drew and Mike when it first came out, was, all these women he was with, and I was a great tennis player, and I kicked Justin Trudeau's ass when we were in school. Some of that kind of feels like somebody overcompensating to say, "Hey, look at me! I guess I am pretty cool."
Nah. For anybody,
but you didn't strike you that way
from the book. He doesn't name drop. I mean, he dated Julia Roberts. People know that. So, of course, he's going to talk about it in his book. And actually, I mean, he mocks himself throughout the whole book. There's sort of a Rodney Dangerfield quality to it. He does not brag about himself at all. I mean, he's self-loathing. That's what I took from it. And for the guys who are sitting back and saying, for Drew and Mike to go look at him and say, oh, he's name-dropping, he's acting, that's bullshit.
It was mostly Mike,
he did not
you.
do that. Whatever, whoever did it, it's just. I mean, yes, he name drops, but it's not because he has to. He doesn't have to name drop, for crying out loud. He's Matthew Perry. He dated. He talks about how he messed up with Julia Roberts and who the great loves of his life were. He also talks about and disclosed that he had a wreck. He couldn't get it up because of all the booze. I mean, who admits that? I mean, this isn't, and how he just
certainly nobody
at relationships.
That's not a problem that you've encountered before, according to what
I think
what I read in the author's notes of the Kwame Sutra.
No, quiet. Anyone who would pick on him,
I like that,
or try to say that he was trying to brag,
I like that.
I believe that worked. We need that drop.
Teresa, can you come into the studio every week and just tell him to be quiet?
Hey, you're the only one he listens to, apparently.
He won't listen. I mean, he just did right now because I don't know. Maybe he has to. I don't know.
He's oddly
silent.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for permission to speak again. Simon says you can talk again. I don't know what the hell's going on with this show. Joe leaves and all of a sudden it goes to hell, man.
I gotta run, guys.
All right,
I gotta run.
Thanks,
all
Teresa.
Right? Thank you for having me. If there's
always good.
Matthew Perry.
Always good to talk.
All right, guys. Take care. Be good to one another, and no more bad jokes. Bye.
I didn't know she had such a good time in Chicago.
Well, you weren't there.
By the way, one of you guys mentioned cool, and I don't think anybody on that show was cool outside of the show. None of them.
Outside of the show?
The closest would be Lisa Kudrow, who was sort of the most interesting.
I like her.
I mean, Jennifer Aniston's clearly the biggest star.
Yeah, I can't stand her.
And then maybe Courtney Cox after that. But Lisa Kudrow was the one that seemed interesting. None of them have really right?
I like LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc's kind of a fascinating guy.
You're talking in real life?
In real life. Is he cool, though?
But that was my point. I think Matthew Perry seems the most realist of them because he opened up and said...
No, for sure, but he wasn't cool.
No.
And David Schwimmer's not cool, right?
No.
Okay, I saw David Schwimmer in a Holocaust movie, and he was playing a member of, I think, the Jewish resistance. And the whole time I'm watching him, waiting for him to do something stupid, like fall down some stairs or, have his wife's lesbian lover bring their baby by. I mean, that role was so defining of him as kind of a goofball.
But even when he was, he did the cameo, and not the cameo, it was more a cameo in Curb Your Enthusiasm. He wasn't really, I don't know.
Who, Schwimmer?
Yeah. The show, I'm with you, Mark. I never watched the show. And
I thought it was a good show, and it's had a
wasn't.
big resurgence. Lots of young people like it, just like The Office is kind of coming back.
I don't get it.
It's 30 minutes of brain candy, I mean,
The Office was a little more to it, right?
Yeah.
well,
I think so.
I think
More realistic.
I mean, well, yeah, certainly a bunch of
Better wit to it, better
a bunch
jokes.
of people with the only realistic character in it really was probably Jennifer Aniston, because she lives in this amazing apartment in Manhattan and can afford it while working as a barista. But her whole backstory, she's rich as hell. So that's why. That's how kind of stories like that happen. You don't have struggling young people living in massive apartments in the middle of urban centers and then not seeming to have a job or any responsibilities whatsoever.
The response to his death has just been pretty wild to me. I don't know. Just seeing people drop off flowers to the
fake
location.
building.
Well, he
the
was
fake
part
building.
he was part of a show that meant an awful lot
I
to
know.
an awful lot of people.
No, well, like I just said, I mean, when Norm Macdonald died, I was really heartbroken by it. But I'm not going to go.
But he wasn't the cultural touchstone.
No, but for me, I mean, he meant a lot more to me than.
Well, no, I felt that way when
Friends.
felt that way when Gary Shandling died. Right,
That's another example. That one really bothered me.
Brilliant,
Bummed me out.
right?
Yeah,
And his show was, oh my god.
But I'm not going to go to where they filmed Larry Sanders.
No. But even Larry Sanders' show is interesting.
willingly.
As new as interesting as that show was, Larry Sanders, it didn't get into people's bellies the way Friends did. You know what I mean?
I know.
Well, Friends was. It was kind of like comfort food, and for all the must see Thursday stuff, it was better than any of the terrible shows that came after it, like the one with Leah Thompson, and then there was the one with Brooke
Carolina
Shields,
City,
and they were just awful. They were so bad.
Suddenly Susan.
Right, they were so bad that Seinfeld had that skit about lead-ins. How stuff was only popular because it came in after Seinfeld, but. The thing about Matthew Perry that I find compelling is that he was an interesting guy. I mean, this guy was a top athlete in Canada before he became an entertainer. His family had some, brush with fame and a little bit of success. And then his stepfather's Keith Morrison.
Yeah,
well,
that's really odd.
Matthew, are you just floating or are you doing the backstroke? He's kind of become a cultural icon himself. But he tried to turn his success story into a redemption story, and that's kind of, in a way, he sort of lit his own light for people to gravitate towards. Although hopefully they find their sobriety in a better way than he did, because it sounds like this is a dude who
54 is too young.
hit the bottom. Yeah, 54.
No matter who you are, how it happens.
It is too young.
Yeah,
By
I
the
think
way, Teresa told us no more bad jokes. So
What bad joke?
no, you're not saying. I'm just as a precursor.
Well, that's the end of this show.
Preemptive, yeah. Exactly.
Or is that a bad joke? I don't know.
Right.
Are we going to talk about Michigan, or are we done? We ready for Cyrus?
Before we go, though, I want to talk about something
we have
Matthew
sponsors.
Paris related.
We have sponsors.
Matthew Perry related that Drew and Mike were talking about.
Yes.
That Aaron Sorkin show he was on.
Yeah, Studio 60 on the Sunset
Yeah,
Strip. Mhm.
and you said you watched that, Mark?
I did.
And
I liked it.
Yeah, I heard you say. I got to tell you, everything Aaron Sorkin does seems to be so unrealistic.
Of course.
When I watched that show, everybody was so earnest and everything was so important. It was just that show. I thought that show was horrible, but
they
it was
based it on this podcast.
It was an interesting choice for him.
Let me ask you this.
In this podcast.
Did you watch The Newsroom?
I watched clips of The Newsroom.
Right.
In
And
fact,
you've worked in a newsroom, and I'm sure that was horribly unrealistic.
Oh my God, Jeff
But it's
Daniels character.
It's a
please.
setting. It's a setting for characters, though.
Well, it's Aaron Sorkin. Whenever I hear that Aaron Sorkin is doing something, I feel like I already know what the show's going to be like. Everybody's going to be
A lot of
sincere to the 10th degree. Yeah, it's going to be like a David Mamet play when everybody is just, too clever and everything is so perfect and everybody's and it just, after a little while you say, please stop. This is no, this is too much. But that show didn't make it very long, and I think that was probably fitting. But yeah, no, it was an interesting choice for him, and Aaron Sorkin, no thanks.
Who's still with us, right?
I believe he is, unless he's blown it up himself.
Addiction.
Yeah, because he likes the booger sugar like nobody
Crack.
else.
He was just crack.
Was it crack?
Yeah,
He went for the hard stuff.
Pretty sure he was a crack smoker for a while. I think he's clean now.
Good for him.
Jeez,
That sounded insincere.
that's maybe this is something
'Cause it was.
he can take a warning from. Okay, Shawn, you wanted to talk about something. You made,
No, I didn't really. I wanted you to read the sponsor, and then I thought we had Geek of the Week, and then some music, and no.
Well, I'll tell you about Luke Nowacki. There's a lot of difficult things in life. You got to be prepared for all your kind of finances. Matthew Perry, by the way, just sold $33 million of real estate and bought a new house. That new house where he passed away was $8 million. So he handled his money really well. So if you want to be like Matthew Perry fiscally, maybe not mental health or I don't know where I'm going with this, but call Luke Nowacki.
Matthew Perry, not a client, as far as we know.
I'm sure Luke is thrilled.
Well, if he was, I mean, he did a pretty good job with his money, and Luke can do that for you, right? Figure out if you're on target to meet your goals. Give Luke Nowacki a call. Get a free consultation, 248-663-4748. That's 248-663-4748.
Because if you expect to live longer than 40 years old, or 54 years old, Luke will make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. member FINRA-SIPC.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc.
So the Caju Cafe is a great place to have a good time. Great music,
Muscles.
great food, great times. Yes, Muscle Madness every Monday. Tonight, Tuesday, Halloween, they are having a big-ass costume party. And Eric Goebel and the Flying Crowbars will be performing. Wednesday is karaoke. On Friday, Shattered, a Rolling Stones tribute, will be playing at the Caju. Saturday is the Flashback Bash. Sunday, Eric Goebel's Sunday Fun Day. Eric just cannot get enough of the East Side. And on Monday is Blue Mondays, which is the Open Blues Jam. And, of course, Muscle Madness, all-you-can-eat mussels. I don't know if you've ever had mussels before, but mussels and French fries is a huge Belgian delicacy. I do not adventure into the mussel world, but when you go to the Caju Cafe, like, okay, I'll get mussels. And they're like, well, what kind? You said, what do you mean? It's like there's like 20 different kinds of mussels. You had no idea. There are more mussels on their menu than there are in your body. So to find out more, go to cajucafe.com, and you'll find a link to their website on our website. Caju Cafe, great place for a great time.
Now, we were going to talk about all the stuff involving, what do you want to call it? Signgate?
I thought it was Geek of the
before
Week.
you leave, I don't want you to leave because I value your opinion, even when it's wrong.
You. Thank you.
But
that means a lot.
I just want to say, I am thoroughly, as a Michigan fan still, I'm thoroughly enjoying this quote-unquote scandal with Connor Stallions for so many different reasons. Number one, is there really a victim here?
Worst porn name ever.
Well, it's a pretty good porn name. Connor Stallions. Come on. But is there really a victim here other than Michigan's opponents? So
when a kid in University of Michigan in a, I don't know, chemistry class or a history class finds a way to get the answers to the test, who's the victim?
Well, I mean, no one really. I mean, he's cheating himself, Sean. Is that what you want me to say?
Is he?
First off, you're not supposed to do that. The NCAA already said you can steal. It's not that they stole signs; it's how they did it, which they broke a rule.
But no, I mean, to me, it's no different than what happens in a classroom. What do you do?
I think it's vastly different.
How is it any different?
Because you're not allowed to steal the answers to a test,
and you're not allowed to steal signs in person on and scouting like that.
Okay, so
you know why?
So
because
it's the manner in which they were stolen.
So you can actually steal signs that way.
So there's so it's the manner. So
it gives you a chance to actually.
So if I'm that student, I'm taking a test and I peek over and I just happen to see an answer. That's okay.
No, you can't do that either.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do it.
Oranges.
You're not allowed to scout. You know why you're not allowed to scout? Because it gives you an idea.
Yeah, sure, but
a much better idea.
And now we're going to get in the weeds because what is scouting, right? What is in-game scouting? Can I watch the games on TV or the all-22s, which every team does?
Can you see the sidelines from TV consistently?
Yes. Not consistent. No,
you can't.
I'm not disagreeing with
No, you
that, but I'm
can't.
just saying this is why it's
So
fascinating.
you're one of these. So you're one of these. It's okay that Michigan fucked up because this is a silly rule.
No.
That's where you fall. Okay.
I'm of the camp of it's not nothing. It's something. I don't think it's that bad of a
It's
penalty.
much worse than recruiting violations.
They're
They're going
But anyway,
against
let me
the
finish, but I don't
spirit of
think
the
it's-
competition. That's what they're doing. It's the same as plagiarism. It's the same as cheating on a test. It's exactly the same. It's against
not.
the spirit of whatever the
it's not.
competition or the task is.
I disagree with that because the NCAA had a chance to stop this, 30 years ago, 20. They just looked at it recently and said, you know what? Not that big of an advantage. We're going to let it keep happening. Even Brian Kelly came out, which I hate being on the same side as Brian Kelly, but he said, not that big of an advantage. I don't think I've ever lost a game. Do you think stealing signs, let's say they stole the signs with Penn State last year, did that really give them a 25-point
If they know what's coming, TCU seemed to think it did. How many points did TCU score as a matter of record through the season?
51. 14 of those were on pick sixes.
No, I understand that. How many did they score in the Big 12?
They knew it was going to be a
How
throw.
many did they score in the Big 12 championship game
they were the
against
ones
a lesser team?
They weren't the ones stealing the sign, ML.
No, but how many did they score?
Maybe that's what they want you to think. They're in your head.
Right? That's all bullshit. It's like Deion Sanders saying
he's
you can
right,
send him.
though.
He's not right. Oh, really? Then go into the meetings. Then let the coaches say, "Oh, come into our film sessions. Come into our game plan."
I'm just saying, the NCAA.
There's no way they won't even let him go to practice.
The NCAA said not that big of an advantage. Other coaches are saying not that big an advantage.
So
Then why not legalize it?
I'm loving this, by the way.
It is.
But
It's not illegal to steal signs.
But one thing that I think
it is illegal to go scout in person because
Sure.
you can actually really get the signs.
Sure, and they were caught doing it. I just don't think the penalty is that going to be that bad. Look at Spygate, right? Isn't that the thing that comes closest to it in the NFL?
Yeah,
What was the penalty?
A first-round draft pick, which is pretty big, and a $500,000 fine to
For Belichick.
Belichick and a $250,000 fine for the Patriots.
Okay, so they lose 2 scholarships, which now you're penalizing kids.
They lost
NCAA
the first-round
pretends
draft pick, which is a big deal.
Sure, no, I know. So you lose a couple scholarships, which is then penalizing the kids. Which
pretty low first-round draft pick. But
yeah, I just don't. My point being, it's not nothing, but it's also not this big.
Here's the difference, and I argued this. I argued this.
Here's
in
where
my
it gets
column.
fascinating. Yeah, go ahead.
I argued this in the column. Here's the difference to me, and I mentioned the Patriots in the column. That organization exists. Oh well, first of all, to make money, but secondly, to win. That's it. And there's no association with any other thing. It's just a team that's supposed to win, and the people that support that team want it to basically do whatever it can, maybe short of killing somebody, to win. That's how professional sports work.
That's college football.
University of Michigan, yes, it is a business. And you and I argue with Mike about this all the time. It is a business, but it is still attached to a larger, much larger university organization whose mission is very, very different than winning, right? It's an educational mission. So if you're going to have those students over here on this part of campus say, "Oh yeah, fine, cheat, whatever you want," and you're not going to do it over here, to me, it's just so hypocritical. It's ridiculous.
Wait, you cannot argue that, and then, like you said, tell ML that it is a business and they should be paying players.
Well, they should be, and it is a business, but
businesses aren't supposed to cheat either.
But they're still attached.
We have rules and laws.
They're still attached to a university, so it's not quite like New England.
Did you see the Did you see the newest piece of news? Because there's been this really slow drip. A lot of it just kind of, I think, silly stuff, like the ball boys holding up a ball with one left hand or right hand. Which, okay, that happens a lot during a game too. But anyway, the new story today, which I kind of laughed at when I first saw it, the Connor Stallions on the sidelines of the Michigan State Central game. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
It is.
Is that photoshopped?
No.
No. Okay.
And Central Michigan has opened an investigation, which I wonder.
Isn't he standing over McIlvain's shoulder, or the head coach?
No, he's standing by the offensive line coach and the head recruiter.
It's some sort of coach, right? I mean, there's
offensive line and the chief recruiter.
It looks like he got a friend pass, a sideline pass.
No, he has a team pass, right?
For Central.
for Central Michigan game, and there's a lot of connections. I mean, McElvain, the head coach at Central, did coach at Michigan for a year, but it's a VB pass, which is visitors bench. But they've actually opened an investigation because as more as the story goes on, it really seems like, yeah, he probably was on the sidelines of that game.
I feel
which kind of helps Michigan's argument.
I feel for the players to some degree, and I feel for the students and alums other than you who actually.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
You know, my nephew, for example, he hates it because they're going to be associated with cheating because it's going to have an asterisk, and it's going to be that way for a while.
Name one winning program that doesn't have cheating accusations thrown at them.
No, but you're doing whataboutism, and I don't
you
want to hear
are, though.
I'm not doing whataboutism. I'm talking about Michigan.
I am loving it.
We're just talking about Michigan. And the students, and I feel bad for these students.
Why?
Because they've got a great football team.
Yeah.
And they're having all this fun, and all of a sudden now it's tainted. And that's not fun. I've talked to a bunch of them already.
Yeah.
They hate it.
Yeah.
Because you don't care because you're kind of a sociopath, but most people do. Most people do. Michigan alums.
No, this is what it boils down to. What I rather.
They don't want it tainted.
What I rather Connor Stallions, and right now looks like he's this rogue employee that put together this fucking manifesto to take over the.
Well, of course you would.
The guy. You don't. So you think Harbaugh's involved?
No. I said, of course you hope
that
that's.
The coach is involved.
No. I'm just.
Of course, the head coach is involved. Absolutely.
Somebody on the staff.
How can you say that? How can you say of course?
Because maybe Jay told him when he reimbursed Stallions. The head coach
in 2018 when he was a volunteer.
Sure. The head coach knows what's going on with this kind of stuff. This is not.
I don't know.
This
if
is
he knew
not
or not.
Somebody who came up with.
There's very little evidence. You're
this
talking
is not
about
somebody who came up with
wait a
Coach Klein's spiral binder in the water boy and said, "Hey, Coach Beaulieu, here's some good plays."
But I think it is. I absolutely think he's this rogue guy who wanted to be the smartest man.
Rogue is another piece of propaganda. Come on, man. You're better than.
I think he's a guy that wanted
the MGO blog crowd.
What?
Rogue, whatever. Rogue.
I won't say rogue.
Everybody does it. He's rogue. It's not that big a deal. It's not that big of an advantage. Quit dismissing it.
It's not me saying this. It's not the Michigan crowd saying it. It's the NCAA. They're NCAA that
They're
said
not
it.
saying it. They're investigating it. They have a rule in the books.
They absolutely said that.
Harbaugh, no, they're talking about scouting, in-person scouting. Quit conflating them.
Sure.
If Harbaugh has an employee,
you know what the penalty has been in the past for in-season scouting?
There's no precedent for this, actually.
For in-season scouting, there is, and it was a half a game for the one game he did it.
Yeah, and the guy left.
Well, he's done it for more than one game.
When he found that guy you're talking about, when he found out, he left.
The question is,
when he found out, he didn't know it was illegal either, by the way. And when he found out, he left in the middle of the fucking game.
The question is, who paid for it, right? Where'd that money come from? Did it come from Connor Stallion's family, or did the University of Michigan reimburse him? That changes the whole story.
Was Connor Stallings not an employee of the University of Michigan?
Starting last year, yeah.
Was he not an employee of the athletic department?
Starting last year, yeah.
Okay, so the head coach has an employee, and this guy is never there on game day. He doesn't know where this guy is.
He is there on game day.
Well, I mean, he's at other places on.
No, he's not. No, he's on the sidelines on game day.
He had proxies for him.
Yeah, he didn't go.
So he's the guy who processes the information that the
who do you suspend
agents have
then?
compiled.
Who do you suspend then? These third parties that he paid? No, it's him.
No, you're going to suspend Harbaugh because he was
stop with the head coach.
Exactly.
Isn't that the responsibility we're teaching the kids?
Well, they did. The NCAA did change their bylaws this year, and that's where Harbaugh could be in a lot of trouble.
His own icon, the guy he looks up to the most said, what's Schembechler's famous quote, right? Talking about you
Dr.
can't.
Anderson didn't do nothing.
No,
Is that his
that
most
too. No, he
Harbaugh.
said you can't not know. Of course, you know. If you don't know, then you should have known. That's from Schembechler.
I know.
From 40 years ago.
I've said it before. You've heard me say it. Harbaugh's weird. Harbaugh is a nut.
And he's a liar.
And he's terrible.
His own university has said he's a liar and suspended for 3 days. So if he says he didn't know, that's coming from the lips of a liar. Did I say 3 days, 3 games?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're just saying he knew when there's, the Washington.
I don't know if he knew or not.
I'm saying he said he didn't know.
Beside the point.
And he's a liar. So if he says he didn't know, I believe he knew.
I'm saying that's beside the point. The NCAA will hold him responsible.
That Washington Post article comes back, right? And everybody points at all the terrible things that was in it last weekend, but nobody's pointing out that there doesn't seem to be a connection to Harbaugh because this is my feeling.
No, but the Post article said there were other staffers, right?
Yes, it did. Yeah. And then which could be interns, which seems like there was, could be Jay Harbaugh. Fine. Blow him out too. And if there is a connection, blow him out. I think when it comes down to it, I don't think it is that much of a competitive advantage, and I don't think they're going to start this weird precedent of hammering these schools. The NCAA has been toothless, and they can run out the clock on a lot of things, right? It took them 6 years to get the Kansas deal done.
Don't justify this.
No, I'm not justifying. I'm just telling you the state of what the NCAA is. The Big
But we
Ten,
all know that.
Yeah, I know. The Big Ten, on the other hand, could put the hammer down, but there is a little be careful of what you wish for there and what others. Are you really going to hurt arguably your biggest brand in your conference?
No, they don't want to hurt Ohio State. Can
I said arguably your biggest brand.
I understand.
Can I offer two things?
But don't justify.
Because I've heard you guys going back and forth and enjoyed it tremendously. I mean, just really, this has been the highlight of my football season because there's nothing good coming out of East Lansing. But there's two thoughts that I have with this. One is, listen, you could tell me what play's coming next, and if Blake Corum comes running towards me, he's going to go over me. So to some extent, knowing what's coming doesn't mean you can stop it. But on the other hand,
it does mean you can bring your safeties up and crowd your linebackers closer to the line of scrimmage.
Just let me bring my second point in. These championships and games are won just like Al Pacino said, any given Sunday, by inches. We need these inches. These guys study everything. They have all this stuff because seconds count. That's why we have replay, because they want to see whether a spot was right. Every little play contributes to victory or defeat. Any edge you can get working hard or running up a sand hill like Walter Payton makes a difference. And when you are trying to be the top program out of 125 programs in the country, and it's so competitive, that little edge you may get from knowing what play is coming, when you have somebody who's better than me trying to stop somebody, can make a difference.
I don't disagree with either of those points.
And that's what's wrong with it.
I think the advantage isn't
as
big as some people think it is. I really just
no,
don't.
but it is an advantage.
You're not going to have Slippery Rock beat Michigan, even if you diagram every single play.
Sure,
exactly. There's no debate there, and I think that's what Deion Sanders was saying, as he said, I think rightly. Curveball versus fastball.
It's a one-on-one,
huge
one-on-one situation
difference.
too. You versus the pitcher.
But at the same time, I think it does make a difference, and I think it just goes to show that just like with the satellite camps and everything, Jim Harbaugh is a coach who came in here to win.
He loves loopholes.
He's going to use every single thing at his disposal to win.
Sure.
He's either going to use loopholes or he's going to exploit perceived loopholes.
Word.
But what it comes down to is exactly what Shawn wrote last week, and which I've said on this podcast before. When you set yourself up as a paragon of virtue, we want everything investigated to the nth degree, but not us. You're a stinking hypocrite, and you shouldn't be pushing that crap out there that we're better than everybody else, because guess what?
Sure, no,
you've lowered yourself to everybody else. And I don't want to see Michigan fans making fun of Buckeye fans anymore, because you're the same thing. You'll do whatever it takes to win. You just want the W because you know what it's like without
every college program.
Well,
Sorry.
And that's
but Michigan's been the only one that's pointed.
I
mean, Harbaugh did especially.
What?
Pointed the other fingers at, or pointed fingers at other programs.
I'm not going to defend them for that.
No, there's no question for that.
Of
course, it's a competitive advantage. Yeah. You know what? Whatever about Slippery Lock. If Penn State knows what's coming, they bring, you know a run's coming.
They beat them by 25 last year.
But if you know a run's coming, right, you stack it up. Of course, it's a competitive advantage.
Well, it apparently...
If it's not a competitive advantage, why do they do it?
Sure.
That answers itself.
Sure, but how much of a competitive advantage?
Who knows? But that's beside the point.
We're not trying to measure angels on the head of a pin.
It is beside the point. It's completely beside the point.
Is speeding 2 miles over the limit as bad as speeding 28 or 40 miles over the speed limit?
With an unloaded gun in your car? I mean, an unregistered gun in your car? Yeah, it's bad. If you're speeding 28 miles over in a residential neighborhood,
I'm just saying,
that's bad.
It's not as black and white as a lot of people want to make it out to be. It's not nothing. I've said this millions of times. It's not nothing, but I don't think it's this whole thing.
No, if you're looking at, crime of passion or manslaughter, versus
Michigan has a monster
versus murder, right? Premeditated murder. Well, this is premeditated. It may not be murder, but it's premeditated, man. This was an elaborate deal that's tied into a few coaches on the staff.
Well, we'll see.
Maybe not a few, but at least one.
We'll see, because so far, every story that's come out says he didn't know about it.
I'm talking about Harbaugh. I'm talking about the people on his staff.
Who? Josh? So it's just, let me ask you this.
It wasn't names. We don't know who yet.
No, there's been names named. Josh Gaddis was a big one that was named. Does he get in trouble at Maryland now? Now that he's at Maryland?
Is he at Maryland?
No, the Post reported that there were a couple of staffers
Jay
who were taking
Harbaugh.
this information.
Jay Harbaugh is the one that, as ML mentioned, is the
Post
name.
didn't mention Jay
Ian
Harbaugh.
Ferentz's
I
kid
don't
can
think.
get a university apartment somewhere.
And I think Chris Partridge was the other one, the linebacker coach who left and then came back again.
I didn't see those names in the Post.
It's
story.
not nothing, and if those people are named, my heart of hearts, when you look at the stuff, it really seems like this guy, and I'm basing it, yes, on the Richard.
Don't say rogue.
I didn't say rogue. I'm basing it on what Richard Johnson wrote in Sports Illustrated. Connor Stallions
Also a great porn name.
is a weird fucking guy, and Connor seems to me to be the kind of guy.
So is the coach.
No, I'm talking about Connor though. He seems to me to be the kind of guy who wants to be the smartest in the room. So this dude is a fanboy. He wants to really impress everybody. So is he going to give his secrets away, or does he want to look like he's some kind of savant? Now, if you want to be mad at Harbaugh for not questioning, hey, how are you so good at this?
I'm not mad
Fine.
at anybody. I actually,
Well,
like I said, I actually have some empathy for the student body who are innocent in all this. The players, I don't know that they know what's going on. Maybe they do.
Well, let's say these alleged interns or the third-party people. Do you have empathy for them? They probably didn't know it was a crime.
Yeah, it looks
not
a
crime. I'm sorry.
It looks
they probably
like
didn't know it was a
against the
violation.
against the
rule
rules.
violation of the NCAA.
No, there was some reporting even that some were like, "Yeah, are you sure this is okay?" Right? They
Sure.
kind of,
Listen,
Yeah, they
were told it was okay.
Michigan has an incredibly talented team, one of the best in the country, capable of winning it all. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll see. And I think what they did sucks, but I hope that it doesn't cause them to lose games because they're
not gonna
distracted.
lose
They
games.
should. Well, they haven't played anybody yet, so
I
we'll
thought you
see.
meant not playing.
No. What I mean is,
No, that's not
I
gonna
want this team to rise and fall based on its talent and its hard work. And I hope that this doesn't derail them. And if they win it all, I hope this doesn't leave a bad taste in their mouth. This is not the same as the Astros winning it all, but it is the same in that if you're wearing that ring, it's going to have a tarnish on it.
It's
and it's
similar
a
to the
tarnish that you
Astros.
put on it yourself. And if you have that much
Let me ask
faith
you
in the
this.
team you put together, play it straight. Don't put these boys in a position where they have to defend themselves when they could have won it
They
straight
don't have
up.
to. Do you think
they
USC
do. I think
feels
they
like
do.
they have to defend themselves because they paid Reggie Bush? Do
No, because I think Reggie
do you
Bush
think
was paid to play.
Do you think Alabama has a stain on it, considering they oversign and make kids gray shirt?
I think
I-
I don't
it's
think
just-
the team that won,
that's a-
but
that's
the
a rule
program
viol-
should be
that's a-
ashamed of itself because this comes back, and
It's
we're going to do an
different.
hour on this, and we don't need to because
It's
we've done it
different.
before. When you turn college sports into a business, I know it's a business.
It already is,
This
yeah.
shit happens because people use whatever edge they can use in business to get ahead.
I would imagine there are high school coaches out there that try to
break rules.
Of course,
try to
of
break
course,
rules
but do we
from time
do we
to
want to
time.
do we want to glorify?
No,
the
we
people
don't
who
at
do
all,
this?
and I don't think
Do we
it's the
wanna
same as
pretend
gray
that they're
shirting.
the leaders
or
and the
recruiting.
best?
It's
Yeah, that's
not.
way worse.
The reason this jump from the sports pages to ABC Nightly News is because the word
Because of the block M.
No, it's not. That
David Muir hates him because he played for Syracuse.
no, because in
didn't.
the
If it was
casual
Syracuse, it would be as big of a
observer's
story
mind,
now.
in the casual observer's mind, it's like cheating on a test. That's what it is.
No, you're right.
That's what it is. That's why it became a national news story,
You're right.
not a national sports story. And people
Well, in Michigan.
people don't care the same way. If some guy who deserves to get money gets paid, they may understand that it's against the rules, but that feels like that's a just thing in society. This goes against everything that people think is a just thing in society. That's why it became a news story, not just a
Oversigning
sports
is
story.
not oversigning is not a bagman thing. That's telling a kid he's got a scholarship and then taking it away from him.
No,
after
but people
On
don't
the other hand,
understand
everybody
that.
who goes to
People don't-
Alabama knows that could happen to him.
they stopped.
That
I mean,
to that, Mike, but also back to you, Mark. People, it's more complex.
Your turn.
You're talking about gray shirting.
Well,
right? You know what I mean?
you're right.
People don't
No, you're right.
see that in the headline and think, "Oh my God, what's going on in Michigan?" They don't think that, or Alabama.
you're right, and I'm not. Look, the die has been cast. People are going to think what they want to think about the team already,
And that's my only point.
Well, sure, but my point is, I just don't think it's as bad when you look at a lot of the particulars about it, and people will take leaps based on the evidence they have. In the end, if there's a money trail and Harbaugh knows and he's broomed out, then yeah, it's way worse. But in the end, if it's a fine and Connor Stallions has show cause,
Would they really be that stupid to have a money trail? I mean,
no. Well, but now
that,
you're talking.
what it's line item budgets in the
Would they be really that stupid to have such a grand conspiracy with multiple people.
I mean,
'Cause
who
now,
knows?
now if you're talking about reimbursement,
Yes, they would.
wow. Okay, I don't know if I can subscribe to that. I don't think they're smart enough to do something like that.
I don't
I don't
think
think Counter Stallions and
these
Jim
things
Harbaugh
just
would.
happen, and they grow. I think that's what happens. Is they try it, they like it, they add on to it. Like, this is great. Let's put some more resources into this. This seems to be working well. This is worthwhile. Let's add another player. What could we do if we put more people into this?
But if it's working and it's still working, why would you change anything?
Well,
Like if it worked from the start with Counter Stallions.
because when you sell a lot of potato chips and somebody says, wow, I really would like them if they're spicy, then you make barbecue chips. And if people say, wow, I really like hot sauce, then you make flamin' hot chips. Because when something's going well and people like it, you try and give them more and bigger. You know, you took econ classes.
so you
More is
mean-
better, right? Isn't that the rule?
So you're saying Counter Stallions then expanded it to go to more games and hire more people?
I'm just saying, yeah, that maybe somebody said, I like this little program we got. Let's do some more. I mean,
it's interesting, and if you can set
but
your
I don't
policy-
know. Here's the thing. We're going to find out, and if it's like Kansas, we're going to find out 6 years from now. Nothing's going to happen. But I just think, yeah, I mean, I've already said what I
my
think.
column went a little bit viral, not because of me, because a law professor at University of Michigan retweeted it and quote tweeted a line I had about, if you don't tolerate in the classroom, you shouldn't on the field. And there are a lot of people, so there are a lot of Michigan people out there that maybe they like the football team in a way, not like Mark does, but they're embarrassed by this, right?
Well, look,
This person has a huge following because she's also on television as a legal analyst too. But
I don't want to say I'm embarrassed, but look, I wish it didn't happen, but am I embarrassed? I don't know.
Because
Isn't that the definition of an embarrassment?
because
You wish
the
something didn't
head-
happen?
Honestly, I think the whole cheeseburger violation and breaking the calendar is worse.
I think this is worse because this goes against the spirit of something.
Well, so does breaking the calendar.
You mean coaching when you shouldn't and that sort of thing. But in the end, you're trying to help somebody. I mean, people look at that differently. Like, okay, you're giving a little extra coaching. I understand. I understand why you say that, but I just think for the general people out there, the general populace,
and I think his response to it was way worse too. To lie and be kind of an asshole about it.
which to Mike's point earlier, why do you believe him now when he says he's got nothing to do with this? It's a fair question.
Oh, because I'm just looking at the characters of people and how they are and how they act, seemingly.
Yeah,
We'll find out.
We'll see.
And on that note,
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
This week's geek is all the people who play by the rules and expect others to do so. No, this week's geek is a fourth grade teacher in Florida who was having a fun movie day at school and instead traumatized his class by showing Winnie the Pooh, but not the Winnie the Pooh that you
asshole.
know and love. Winnie the Pooh, Honey and Blood, the slasher movie that became possible once Winnie the Pooh, the beloved children's bear, and his friend Piglet, and Eeyore and Christopher Robin became part of the public domain and got turned into a disgusting movie, which the makers of this movie were previously winners of our Geek of the Week of the Geek of the Week award. Sorry, I'm dealing with a little vertigo and still.
that's right.
Still kind of high from watching Marc and Shawn fight over college football, where usually they're beating me up when I'm just trying to.
It's such a virtuous sport.
The truth. But Michelle Diaz, whose twins were in the class, was left dumbfounded by the teacher's decision to show the movie. He didn't stop the movie, even though kids were saying,
He's into it.
hey, stop the movie. We don't want to watch this. So this is not rated, which tells you what a nasty movie it is. And the teacher, I think, has said, I kind of didn't realize what was going on for the first
teacher's checked out.
20 minutes to half an hour. It's like, well, when kids are saying, hey, stop the movie, we don't want to watch this, and Winnie the Pooh is hacking people to bits, I think you've checked out, or maybe you're on something, or I don't know. But at any rate, the Academy for Innovative Education, which is the school where this was shown, says they have become aware that a segment of horror movie was shown to fourth graders on Monday, October 2nd, that was not suitable for the age group, or I would argue pretty much any age group. The head of the school said in a statement, our administration promptly addressed this issue directly with the teacher and has taken appropriate action to ensure the safety and well-being of the students. We're actively monitoring the students, and our mental health counselor and principal have already met with those students who have expressed concerns. So as someone who teaches adults, you don't want to put anything on the screen that you haven't watched before yourself. And when they start screaming in their tinny little fourth grade voices, "We don't want to watch this," and you hear screams and carnage behind you, you should probably get somebody in the AV club to stop the projector. I think they still use those. So totally checked out fourth grade Academy for Innovative Education movie showing shitbag teacher. Happy Halloween. You're our Geek of the Week.
If there's an all-night party in room 7609, and you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
Welcome to room 7609, where despite many complaints from some in the room and some in the listening audience, new wave music is alive and well. Listener Paul says, "Hey ML, how about a tune from a great Detroit band that just had a reunion show at St. Andrews? A song so appropriate for the UAW strike. Can you guess what song and band I'm referring to? I'm referring to Solidarity, a song that has stood the test of time. And the band? Rhythm Corps. Now, we've played Rhythm Corps before, but if you missed it, they're back together, they're playing, and I guess you could say, in solidarity.
Strength that binds us to the common purpose, Father, Son, and daughter. Mother staves the slaughter. One to promise, one to break the surface with each new endeavor. Steady back the nervousness of solidarity. This is solidarity. Solidarity, this is solidarity. Solidarity, this is solidarity, yeah. One to promise, one to break the surface with each new endeavor. Steady back the nervousness. Front to back they lined the streets of Warsaw and 13,000 miles away. The folks back home saw solidarity, this is solidarity. Solidarity, this is solidarity. Solidarity, this is solidarity, yeah.
So Blue Water Paul says, these guys were more alternative than new wave, but you just played the Bangles, so I figured these guys are worthy of a play. Keep up the great work. And if you are of a certain vintage, like if you were born the same year as Matthew Perry, you probably went someplace like the Ritz or maybe Todd's and saw bands like the Trash Brats, Bittersweet Alley, and maybe, this being Halloween, the Feisty Cadavers, some of these great Detroit bands that used to play and have pretty solid followings. Rhythm Corps, back, I'd be curious to ask them what they've been doing since they broke up and what caused them to get together again and what they hope to go with this. Was this a one-off show at St. Andrews or what? But you have heard them before. I guarantee you've heard Common Ground by Rhythm Corps at some point or other. That one actually made some waves nationally. But a little local music here in Room 7609 where we love to get your suggestions. You can send them to us at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. And while I will tell you, I think this is a nice little song, it's not my favorite one we've ever played, it is Shawn Windsor approved, which puts it into a very, very elite category.
I liked it. It was a nice song.
There you go. The nicest things ever said about music played on this show, other than Max Prokoff's original compositions, which we all love. And if you have not gotten your tickets yet for the Smiths United show at the Magic Bag on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving is Murder returns to Ferndale. I got my tickets. I hope to see you there. Can't say yet whether I'm going to wear the kilt or not. It may be a little chilly out there. And let's just say I'm a modest gentleman. I don't want anybody checking under my sporn bag. So, well, it's since I'm better than Matthew Perry, I guess that's at least according to someone who should know. But no donors to thank this week, unfortunately. We have had some generous donors on a regular basis and some folks who have popped up occasionally with a really nice contribution to the show. As I mentioned, we are going to be retooling the show a little bit to try and encourage some more support from our listeners and our viewers when we bring the video component back. Taking a cue from the Free Press and a lot of other publications, we're relying more on the people who appreciate this show for its support rather than sponsors, although we do appreciate our sponsors and encourage you to call Luke Nowacki at Pinnacle Wealth Strategies. He really can help you make a plan that will make you feel a little more comfortable about what lies ahead. And the Caju Cafe, which is always a great place to go when you're looking for something fun to do. Feather bowling, live music, great food, great people, great place. And we have a lot of feedback this week, but it's not really long, so I'm going to just plow through it here. Marc and Shawn are both exhausted. Marc working on a bonus episode of the Drew and Mike Show. Not a bonus episode, but I mean...
Early episode, yeah.
Yeah, you guys recorded early because you wanted to get in on the Lions, and I can't believe we didn't really talk that much about the Lions. I will tell you...
Did you watch the game?
I went to a bar with my wife and
Why is it
eldest
never a
daughter
yes
for
or no?
dinner, and I sat down, and the one TV in front of me was playing the Red Wings game, and I said, awesome. And then Tresa, who loves the Lions, asked them to change it to the Lions.
Good job, Tresa.
So I did watch the Lions, but at halftime, we went home. I had to drop my car at the shop, and when I came home, I went back and watched the Americans. So I did not see the second half. But I was very glad for all my friends who cheer for the Lions that they were victorious. So
Well, the Wings do.
They won in overtime.
Well, there you go.
I didn't watch that either. I much prefer to watch sports in person, or if given a choice, I'd rather play than watch. So I'm just
the Pistons lost. I mean, isn't that wild? All three playing at the same time.
Yeah, well, and the Pistons, hey, they're 1-2. That's a better win percentage than they ended the season with.
2-2, maybe.
Oh, maybe 2-2.
I think they were 2-2. I don't know, because they've started really well, and Cade looks really good.
Yeah, they're all healthy, so that's great. No, hey, we want success. We want something to talk about. But here's something to talk about from our friend Wesley. Hey, ML, just listened to yesterday's podcast with Charlie. Obviously, he sent this last Wednesday. We heard him last Wednesday and Tuesday. I thought you and Windsor were great. I would be interested in learning more about your Patreon suggestion. I would love to support you guys to stay on and continue to entertain and enlighten. I've never used the platform before, but like you and Venmo, I'm willing to give it a try. Let the fellas know I said hello and to keep fighting the good fight. We're all here for you. Also, Hazy Shade of Winter was an awesome pick for Room 7609 until you worked in a Morrissey reference. Where's Mark when we need him? I digress, but love you guys. And yes, I would pay to listen to more of you. So it would be more because we'll give you more than you're getting now. And you'll be able to watch it too, which some people enjoy. But that's, Shawn, that's a lot of eye candy right there. Amy also says, great, just listen on my way home from work. Nice to hear you and LaDuff together. His firing is so crummy and strange. Such an embarrassing overreaction by gelded News' brass. I can see maybe a week or two suspension at most. It is just cheeky British humor, innuendo, and a double entendre. Big whoop! He didn't actually say it. His Twitter profile does not make any reference to him being a news columnist.
Yeah.
And he deleted it before anyone saw it, except some dimwit at hyperpartisan rag Michigan Advance, a conservative paper giving into cancel culture, fake outrage, ginned up by that halfwits. Gary Miles can have fun with Chad Livengood. I am confident literally nobody subscribes to or buys a print copy of the news because they see a Livengood byline. Oh, geez. Well, Charlie himself said that one of the two people he apologized to was Gary Miles because he really respects him and what he's doing at the Detroit News, and I do too.
That puts him in a weird spot.
Yeah, it was tricky.
And again, I think the tweet by Chad put him in a weird spot too, instead of dealing with it internally.
Well, I don't know the outcome would have been any differently, but as I said last week, if I was Chad's boss, I would have said, "Can you call me first before you start posting on social media, Big Phil?" I think
it also seems like some people tried to squash the column before it even ran in-house.
I have not heard anything about that. That is new, and if that's true, I will say when I read the column, it was written in as dry a tone as I've ever seen anything appear under Charlie's byline, which made me wonder whether people said, hey, you know what, we need to be as straight as possible with this. No gloating, no reveling in this.
It was a good story, and it was well-sourced and well-checked.
Now, which one? That somebody tried to smother it? Oh, yeah. No, the column was rock solid. I mean, Gary said that himself, and from what I understand, the Attorney General hasn't raised any objections or poked any holes in it.
No correction, retraction demanded.
So I'll tell you, listen, there was some of Charlie's colleagues who were concerned about not just people at the Michigan Advance. And I had some concerns about what he said, too, as we talked to Charlie about and as he addressed straight up, which I respect immensely, and I hope people appreciate that. I also don't condone or approve of what he did. And if I was his boss, he'd have been in my office and he'd have taken a rip, too. Whether it would have been termination
or not,
we'd have to see how everybody addressed it. But if Charlie squared up to that with his bosses the way he squared up to it with us, it'd be tough to let a guy like that go. People who can admit that when they're wrong, because we're all wrong at one time or another.
We're
all wrong at one time or another. But the number of people who can square up to it, that doesn't happen very often. So that's something to note. But you know what? Chad raised a concern, and he did it in a very provocative way, and he's been outspoken. So, I kind of respect his willingness to say what's on his mind. Again, I wouldn't want one of my subordinates in management going about it that way. But whatever. That's done. Charlie will move on. He's had lots of jobs. He'll have lots more. You will not be able to avoid him for better or for worse. He is a guy who makes news. In this case, he became the news, and that's where things got a little haywire. But you can't keep Charlie down, whether you think he's a good man or not. He will be back, and I think that does Charlie contribute more or detract more? I'm on the contributes more side of the scale. Yeah. So you'll be seeing it, and of course you can hear him on the No BS News Hour, and hopefully we'll have him on again sometime in the future talking about a completely different subject. Unless he has another big scoop involving our Attorney General. So that's your feedback. You can send it to us at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. If you want to donate to the show, we have a PayPal and a Venmo option. You can go to mlsoulofdetroit.com. There's a couple buttons there. One says PayPal, one says Venmo. Whatever you put in there is going to come right to us. And there's very little overhead here because Drew is kind enough to give us use of the studio. So that'll go to me, Mark, Shawn, little severance to Joe. And, there's no management fees. There's no administrative costs. That's from you to us, and then it keeps us coming back to you. So it's kind of a perpetual motion machine, symbiotic relationship, however you want to look at it. But we appreciate your support in every way you can give it. Sometimes that's just sharing the show. Sometimes it's just commenting on the show. Sometimes it's just rating the show. And we have over 600 ratings, nearly a 5-star average. And we appreciate that too. Although I think one of the last ratings was kind of shitty. I have to look that one up. Yeah, somebody's not happy with me, but that's to be expected. So yeah, Mark. Hopefully this week is going to get a little easier, and if you're having a tough week, we hope that this has made it a little better. Yeah, because we appreciate you guys, and I appreciate Marc and Shawn, especially when they're fighting. Damn, I love that.
Probably killed you not being involved in a fight.
I've been getting my ass kicked a lot. Maybe I'll sit on the sidelines. Maybe I'll heal up for the next scrap.
Fair enough.
Sometimes you got to you go to the weigh-in, but you can't make it. You can't make it for the big bout. But we'll be back next week with more ML Solo Detroit. Mark, any revelations you're looking forward to this week?
Happy Halloween.
Big game on. Oh yeah, happy trick or treat.
That's all I got.
Make sure you give some nice candy to the kids and save the best stuff for yourself. Right? Doesn't everybody do that?
Yeah, I pretty much have already eaten all the candy we're supposed to give away tonight. So.
Give out all the hard candy and keep the Tootsie Rolls.
Yep.
Okay. Words to live by. Until next week, when we should have another fantastic show, we turn to our friend Cyrus to take us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
What he's typed will be a window into his madness. Feeling fine. Wow, that's a relief. This is less encouraging.
Hello! What do you think? All I need is a title. I was thinking along the lines of no TV and no beer make ML something.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do! What?